So given here, AB is 10. What that tells us is EF, opposite that, is also going to be 10. So when those altitudes get drawn in, again, we have a rectangle there. So opposite sides of the rectangle are equal. DC is 22. So this whole measure from D to C is 22. And AE is a height of 12, meaning BF will be 12, because again, we have a rectangle shape there in the middle. Find the length of the leg of the trapezoid. Well, the leg would be AD, or over here, BC. Because we were told it was isosceles, so we know those two measures as well are equal. Now, how do we find any other pieces there? So we do have this right triangle formed, this right triangle ADE. I'm going to kind of shade it in there. I'm going to transfer it over here, ADE. And all we know so far about that shape is that the height is 12. We have to do a little bit of math across this diagonal here, this base, to find the measures of DE and FC. Well, these triangles, BCF and ADE, are going to be congruent by HL congruence, okay? So remember hypotenuse leg, the hypotenuses are equal. We know they're right triangles because of the altitude, and these legs, 12 and 12, are equal. So what that tells us is by CPCTC corresponding parts, this side FC and DE are equal to each other. Okay. So I'm going to use a little subtraction to find those. So if I know the whole thing is 22, this middle piece here is 10. 22 subtract 10 gives us 12. And then we have these two matching pieces. So divided by 2 will give you that each of those is 6 here and 6 here. So 6 squared, 12 squared equals C squared. So if we're trying to find the length of the leg, I'm going to put another X there. If you want to put a C because you've already used the variable X, you can. But we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So you have 6 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. 36 plus 144 equals C squared. And that adds to 180, I believe. Now when we take the square root of both sides, we're going to use a calculator. And the square root of 180 gives us approximately 13.4. Now that's an estimate, so I'm going to go back and put the squiggles in, and that is the length of our leg. Now they didn't ask us to round here to any specific digit, so another way we could answer this is the square root of 180 would break down into perfect squares. And I'll tell you that 5 and 36 goes into 180 evenly. 36 being a perfect square would become 6 square roots of 5. So if we were looking for a leg, AD would equal 6 square roots of 5. That's considered an exact answer. So again, just a little review back from our first unit with our distance formula. If they ever ask you for an exact answer, you use the radical. If they ask you to round to a decimal, you would go here. Okay. Median of a trapezoid. So we did talk about this already. We wrote it back on the front page, but a median of a trapezoid joins the midpoints of each leg. So again, we have a leg on the left and a leg on the right, considering that these sides are the parallel sides. So if I connect the midpoint here, so I kind of just estimated that one, and the midpoint here, we form a median. It is also going to be parallel to both bases. And the rule there is to find the median. It equals base 1 plus base 2, all divided by 2. So we're going to take the sum of those bases. So again, the base 1 and base 2 would be the parallel sides. Okay. So looking at a application question. A baker is making a cake, as seen as the one below. Top layer has a diameter of 8 inches. The bottom layer has a diameter of 20 inches. And wide should the middle layer be, or how long, okay, should that middle layer be? So that's technically, if we kind of sketch out a trapezoid here, okay, what we're looking for is the median of that trapezoid. So to find the median equals base 1, 8, plus base 2, 20, divided by 2. Now remember, we want to find the sum of the top first. So 28 divided by 2, you should use a 14-inch round cake pan to help yourself make that nice symmetrical cake. All right. Again, I know I'm going fast. If you need to rewind, pause, rewatch, please do. Exercise 6, a trapezoid. RVTS is given below with a median MN drawn. Find the length of RS. So here we have a lot of expressions given to us. Okay, we have an expression for the base 1. We have an expression 8 times the value of x plus 5 for base 2. And the median has a number assigned to it. All right, so when we're looking at this formula, the median equals base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. There's 3 unknown variables. Okay, we're going to sub in for each one. So the median, the 15, goes in over on the left, equals the sum of the bases. So 6x minus 3 adds to the 8x plus 5 divided by 2. Now here, I know some of you make mistakes combining your like terms, so I'm going to try to slow down a second. What we're going to do first is actually add these numerators together. So again, we have 6x's plus 8x's more is 14x's. Negative 3 plus 5, again, same side sum. Negative 3 plus 5 more is positive 2. Right? So this whole numerator gets replaced by 14x plus 2. The 15 and the 2 are going to get cross multiplied as the big proportion kind of reads here. So notice I put this 15 over 1 kind of automatically. I even forgot to say it as I did it. But I like to have a fraction equal to a fraction for that case. So 15 times 2 gives you 30 equals 1 times this new numerator, 14x plus 2. Now to get the x's alone, we subtract 2 from both sides. Ooh, I didn't mean to write in the division there. But we get 28 equals 14x, and we all know that 14 goes into 28 2 times. So we find x to be 2. I did kind of run out of space today. But going back into the question, and it says find the length of RS. So RS is 8 times x plus 5. So 8 times 2 plus 5 more is 16, and 5 will be 21. So RS there equals 21. Right. So that's it for notes today. Pretty short and sweet. We did use some Pythagorean theorem. I just want to remind you that that will show up here in the isosceles trapezoids. And this median rule we used a couple times. Right? Moving into boxes review. Okay. We are going to have some proofwriting next time. So I'm going to do this here with you. Okay. These, if you want to be looking back to notes 3.05, remember that single sheet that we had for the boxes. Okay, there's going to be a part on your midterm very similar to this sheet here, where you have some given information, and we're going to do very short mini proofs here. Given that HK bisects angle GKN, when you bisect an angle, you create equal angles. Reason being, the definition of bisector tells you that. Okay, so looking over to the picture, if HK bisects angle GKN, G to K to N, what's happening is you're creating these two angles here, angles 1 and 2. So we put the 1 and 2 in your picture, and we have angle 1 congruent to angle 2. So that's all we're looking for, is a little mini proof. Based on that fact, what things can we gain in our proof? So this is like a little puzzle piece that's going to go into our proofs a little bit later that we're going to have on these quadrilaterals. So proofs are coming back up. So your mini proofs, you always have 2 steps. Step 1, I'm going to rewrite that given. D is the midpoint of AC. And what conclusion can we make based on that midpoint for our picture. So if D is the midpoint, I'm going to my picture, I'm going to mark up the picture. If you have blank diagrams here, something's going wrong, right? You're missing a step of the process. And you've probably been struggling with your proofs because of it. So if D is the midpoint of AC, across AC, D is in the middle. So when you have a midpoint, you don't just mark the midpoint, you tell me what pieces are going to be equal to each other, because we're going to need to put that in the proof. The segment from A to D, whatever that measure is going to equal or be congruent to DC. So if the whole thing was 18 inches long, we now have 9 inches and 9 inches to kind of cut that in half. The reason being, the definition of midpoint tells you that. A midpoint divides a segment into 2 equal segments. So we needed to have written those down. Here we have segment RS bisects segment RQ. Not to be confused with an angle bisector. We have bisects again, okay? But here we formed equal and congruent angles. This diagram, we're going to form equal segments. So if we're bisecting PQ, then PM and MQ are going to be the equal segments. So again, this is a verb. Bisecting PQ. PQ is what's cut into the 2 equal pieces. So our mini proof, RS bisects PQ, given. We always rewrite the given information. Step 2, PM is congruent to QM by the definition of bisector, because a bisector divides something into 2 congruent parts, and those parts were PM and QM. Parallel lines. So same picture, but new facts, okay? A new thing is told to us that PS and RQ run parallel to each other. So when things run parallel, we form a Z, right? So the Z angles here and here are alternate interior angles. Some of you have been writing the opposite interior. I just want to make sure we're back on the same page leading up to the midterm here soon. So we have PS is parallel to RQ, is our given information. And what we can conclude from there is that these angles within the nooks of your Z are equal. So here we'll have angle Q is congruent to angle P. The reason is kind of specific, right? We didn't do much parallel lines yet, but we will have a ton of them with our parallelograms coming up next class. So if lines are parallel, which is what was given to us, comma, alternate interior angles are congruent, all right? So again, with those parallel lines, you have alternate interior congruent angles, okay? To be honest, the Z could have gone in the opposite direction. So if some of you had drawn it in ahead of me, the Z could go in this fashion, and we would also have angle R congruent to angle S. So you actually could gain 2 sets of angles just from that one idea, all right? Last but not least, perpendiculars, okay? BD, perpendicular to AC. When you have perpendiculars, you form 2 equal angles. So this information marked on the picture. Now notice I have something written on all of my diagrams. That's going to be important to us. So in our given that BD is perpendicular to AC, this says needs 2 statements and reasons. It actually needs 3 because we are rewriting the given here. But these 2 facts always go hand in hand, okay? So when you have perpendiculars, what's formed next is the right angles. Perpendicular lines form right angles. So that's what we're going to say here. So angle 1 and angle 2 are right angles. Reason being, perpendicular lines form right angles. Okay? So what happens when you have a perpendicular is you make these right angles. Then we go about calling those angles congruent. So from here, we're now going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 because all right angles are congruent. Now these are all of our puzzle pieces that are going to be formed into some proofs. Now for right now, we're going to skip. Nope, we're not going to skip. What I'd like you to be doing is the next couple pages. So right now, I would like you to be trying these questions. They're mostly related to the trapezoid, the first few here. The rhombus, the rectangle shows up here. So I do want you to be trying this page. This is classwork 4.03, the back. So I would like you to submit a picture of this page here completed. Most likely if you're in class, I'll be logging in at the end of the block to kind of go over this page with you. All right, see if you need any help on it. And then for homework, this is a graded homework assignment. So you might need more than the 80 minutes we usually allot for this class to be trying these. I think it's just 7 questions, okay? I need you to try these. This is going to be a mini quiz grade for you, all right? A graded homework. It's going to count for a bunch of points, so you don't want to skip it. So you have 4 questions here on the front, 3 more questions on the back. Wherever I have a diagram drawn, I really want you to be drawing on it. So looking here at number 7, there's a rhombus kind of drawn there. If I help you with it, since AC is longer, I would start down here, A, B, C, D. That's to kind of help you visually if you needed help with that. The rectangle is pretty self-explanatory. Try that with what you can, all right? But I need to see that you're comprehending what I'm putting out there for you. So again, graded homework 403 is also due. So this is going to be kind of posted 2 times today in classroom. The classwork as part of your class credit for today, and then an additional homework assignment this time. We appreciate it. Good luck. Email me with any questions.